Hi viewers, I just want to do this video. I've noticed my fuel cap door was all floppy. Okay, first you're going to want to start by removing your wheel, and secondly you're going to want to remove your inner guard. As you can see, this is the front here, this is the rear. So on this bottom trim here, at the bottom there's a screw which is there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the expanding part. This is your screw bit, Phillips head. And then on the inside, you've got two 10mm plastic nuts. So you're also going to want to remove these two screws. So first I'll give you a look with everything removed. So to actually get this assembly out, you need to, as I said, remove the nuts, pull the pipe away from the car body and push it down. So you got flex in this hose here so you can push down, and then as you can see I've sort of got the filler tube tucked in behind there, and you need that right out of the way to enable this assembly to come out this way, like so. I'll just show you what I actually did. So I was using a flat blade screwdriver, sort of pry these tabs up, and then pull this assembly away from the car, and yeah, so that's what I did. And I was sort of struggling to pry this off, like I got a small screwdriver under the rubber and sort of pried it off. Now that I know that you have to get that filler tube out of the way, I would probably try and maneuver that out of the way first, get it down, pull it down clear of the car. You might find that the rubber might come off it easier, if not on its own. But yeah, you can try that. Otherwise, as I said, the way I did it, pry that up, pull the back part sort of away from, like pull that out, and get the rubber all clear. And then, as I said, I was sort of struggling trying to force this out, but all you need to do is get that pipe out of the way, get that clear, and then this will just sort of pull out like so. Now before you get to that, first step you're going to want to do, there's a little torque screw here, a T25. So remove that, pull this off to enable you to get this trim ring off. Now on this particular one, so you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs, and you'll notice there's a little a notch here which goes right at the very bottom. So you've got these plastic clips, tabs here, so you've got 1, 2, 3, and then these here go on the outside. You can see the offending problem. So as you can see, there's a plastic pin in the bottom here. There's also one on the top which is attached to this spring, and as you can see it's for some reason popped out of here. So what I initially tried to do when I was struggling to get it out, I thought I could drill a hole here. This is covered by this outer trim piece, so I wasn't worried about that, and it wasn't, I couldn't see anything that would affect the integrity of it. Thought I might have been able to drill that hole, access hole, poke a screwdriver in, because the pin was actually just sort of sitting out like that. And yeah, I thought I might have been able to press it back in, but didn't. seem to have very good access to it. So now that I've actually got it off, it would have been pretty tricky for me to get in, I think, because this hinge here, as you can see, it's not lined up there, so trying to do that, so not really knowing where it's meant to be aligned or anything, I think I would have had a lot of drama trying to get it in. You'll notice there's a flat part here which is flat across that way, and you'll notice on the pin there's a flat section on that too when you get it apart. So obviously those two flat pieces need to align. Yeah, I thought I'd just show you this as it's all pulled apart so you can sort of get an idea of how it all looks and how it works. Flat section. So I actually have to push this tab of the pin that way. Put pressure on the spring. And actually it was probably the spring, the pressure on the spring that popped it out in the first place. As you can see now, the flap is solid now. It's locked back in place how it should be. So I'm going to reinstall it now in the reverse order. So I'm going to poke this end in first, get that all in. This tab here, it sort of sits in that recess there. And then as you can see, these other three clips, I'm assuming, line up with these 3 points here. And you've got this rubber seal which attaches back over the filler pipe. So just one thing to be aware, when you go to reinstall it, you'll probably work it out for yourself anyway, but if you have the fuel door open, you'll find it a lot easier to get back in place. Here's these other 2 tabs that sit against, just rest up against the outside. Just be aware you've got your door electric actuator which locks. When you lock the car, it locks the door, so just try not to damage that. Okay, so it actually went in pretty easy, went back together. So all I did was grab the bottom here, pulled sort of towards me, like back towards the wheel at the bottom, and then up at the top I sort of twisted that forward. So push that forward, sort of twist it and get it back into place, located over here. So you've got a bolt here, nut which goes on over there, and this tab here is actually cut away, so it just slides over back in place. And you don't need to stress about getting the rubber on, because as you maneuver the tube back into place, it sort of just, the rubber all goes back into place. So now, so you've got this wire which I assume is for static electricity or something, just to ground it out, just so you don't get any sort of sparks or anything when you're fueling up. So make sure you put that back in place. Should just push back into place. You're just going to want to push those back down into place. It should be sort of flush there. Same with the ones up the top. Okay, so they're already in place. Let's give this a test, pull it, make sure it's not going to come out. So as you can see, I just moved that little tether out of the way. Put that back in place once I get this done back up. Shouldn't really need to be super tight. Hook that back in. And that's that done. Probably a good idea to do that top one up first. This lip on the inner guard, I think, has to go on the inside of this outer flare. So get that in place first, and then it should be fairly easy to locate everything else. So that all looks good. So I'm going to start by doing these 10mm nuts. To these other Christmas tree clips, so push the first part in place and then you can actually just push the other piece back in. So with these other ones, when you're removing them, if you find the outer parts turning, you can generally just hold with your finger. Otherwise, there's a couple of little recesses either side here. You can insert a small screwdriver in there and sort of lever it out. Sometimes they don't want to come out, so you can sort of help lever it as you unscrew it. Don't forget about your little screw underneath here. So here's the screws you need to remove on the inner guard. So you've got 1, 2, and then at the back, got one up here, one down in here. You got this one screw underneath here. And just when you get this back in place, I noticed the inner guard was actually sitting over on the outside of there. That needs to go back on the inside. So I just basically just pushed it, got it back in place. Make sure everything's lined up and you're good to go.